In 2010, the U.S. Mint made a historic change that quietly ended one of the longest-running coin designs in American history. For over half a century, the Lincoln Memorial reverse had defined the penny, a familiar image in every pocket, every cash register, every school lunch tray. But that year, everything changed. A brand new design emerged, the Lincoln Shield Cent. It marked a new chapter, honoring Lincoln's legacy not with a monument, but with a powerful symbol of unity. And what most people didn't realize was that the first penny struck with this new design would go on to become modern rarities worth far more than 1 cent. Let's uncover the story behind the 2010 penny, the first of its kind, and one of the most intriguing coins in the entire Lincoln Cent series. The dawn of the Lincoln Shield Cent. For decades, collectors and historians had debated when, or if, the U.S. Mint would ever replace the Lincoln Memorial reverse. By 2009, the Mint had celebrated Lincoln's 200th birthday with 4 special bicentennial reverse designs, each depicting a different chapter of his life. When 2010 arrived, those commemorative reverses came to an end, and a new era began. Chief engraver Lyndall Bass and sculptor Joseph Mena designed the now famous Union Shield, a single, bold shield with 13 vertical stripes and a banner across the top, reading E Pluribus Unum, out of many one. That shield represented the preservation of the United States during the Civil War, Lincoln's greatest achievement. And for collectors, it represented something else, a fresh start for the most collected coin in American history. Minting the first year, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. 3 U.S. mints were responsible for producing the 2010 pennies. Philadelphia, no mint mark. Denver, D. San Francisco, S. Proof strikes only. The numbers were staggering. Philadelphia struck over 2 billion, and Denver another 2.1 billion. But quantity doesn't always mean common, because within those billions are varieties, errors, and pristine condition coins that are anything but ordinary. Error varieties that make the 2010 penny rare. When a new design is introduced, the early years are ripe for minting errors. The dies are fresh, the presses are being adjusted, and mistakes are more likely. The 2010 penny is no exception. Here are the varieties and errors that transform this modern cent into a collectible worth serious money. 1. Double die obverse, DDO. Some 2010 pennies show doubling on the obverse, especially visible on the date 2010 and the word liberty. Under magnification, the numbers appear shadowed or slightly offset. Certified examples have sold from $50 to over $300, depending on clarity and grade. 2. Shield doubling, DDR. On the reverse, a handful of coins show doubling on the shield's lines or the banner lettering. These are even scarcer and can reach $500 plus in high grade. 3. Offsetter strikes. Misaligned strikes are visually dramatic when part of Lincoln's portrait or the shield appears cut off. Collectors pay between $100 and $250, depending on how far off the strike is. 4. Die cracks and cuts. Cracks along the rim or chips in the shield area can bring $10 to $50 for unique shapes, especially when they appear in high-grade red coins. 5. Wrong planchet errors. Extremely rare 2010 pennies have been discovered struck on older copper planchets or on blanks meant for foreign coins. If you find one that weighs 3.1 grams instead of 2.5, you may have a copper transitional error, worth $600 to $1,000 or more when certified. Understanding the metal, zinc's role. Like all modern cents since 1982, the 2010 penny is made primarily of zinc with a thin copper coating. That composition makes it cheaper to produce, but also far more fragile. Zinc cents corrode, discolor, and spot easily, which is why high-grade examples from 2010 are already getting harder to find. Collectors prize coins that retain a deep red color, what grading companies call RD, red. Once a coin loses that luster, it drops to red-brown, RB, or brown, BN, and loses value quickly. That's why the finest examples, bright red. Back in 1980, most Americans were focused on the price of gas, the new decade, and maybe a few disco records still playing on the radio. Few people gave a second thought to the small silver-colored dimes jingling in their pockets. But among those billions of Roosevelt dimes minted that year, a handful turned out to be anything but ordinary. Today, some of those 1980 dimes are worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, hiding their value behind an unassuming 10-cent face. Imagine this. You're sorting through change one quiet afternoon, and there it is, a 1980 dime that looks a little different. A missing letter, a doubled image, a silvery edge where you'd expect copper. You'd probably shrug it off, but if you knew what to look for, you might be holding a coin worth far more than you could imagine. Let's dive into the fascinating world of the 1980 Roosevelt dime, a coin that marked the start of a new minting era and gave rise to some of the most intriguing modern mint errors of its time. To appreciate why the 1980 dime matters, you need to understand the moment the U.S. Mint was in. The 70s have been a wild ride for American coinage. The bicentennial celebrations, changing metal compositions, and an enormous rise in production. By 1980, technology at the Mint was evolving fast, and with it came both precision and, ironically, new opportunities for mistakes. For the first time in history, every circulating coin struck in 1980 carried a mint mark. Before that, Philadelphia coins traditionally bore no mint mark at all. But starting that year, the small letter P made its debut on the dime, a quiet but historic change that marked the beginning of a new numismatic chapter. So, if you find a 1980 dime without any mint mark, that should instantly grab your attention. Because officially, every dime struck in Philadelphia from 1980 onward should have that P. No mint mark on a 1980 dime could mean one of two things: a worn die that never received its mark, or a minting mistake, the kind that can bring serious collector interest. Let's talk about the technical side. The 1980 Roosevelt dime continued the copper-nickel-clad formula introduced in 1965. 91.67% copper, 8.33% nickel, weighing 2.27 grams and measuring 17.9 millimeters in diameter. Three mints struck dimes that year: Philadelphia with the P, Denver with the D, and San Francisco with the S for proof issues. In total, over 1.5 billion dimes rolled off presses across the nation in 1980. Most were perfectly ordinary, but as with any high-volume production, a few slipped through the cracks, quite literally in some cases. One of the most notable 1980 dime errors is the no S proof dime. That's right, another missing mint mark, this time on proof coins struck at the San Francisco Mint. Proofs are supposed to be flawless. While you were dropping a dime into a payphone back in the 1970s, someone else was holding on to one that today could be worth thousands of dollars. Yes, a simple 1976 United States one dime. A coin you've probably seen hundreds of times, slipped into vending machines, or tossed into a jar without a thought. But here's the surprise. A handful of these dimes from America's bicentennial year carry hidden details that transform them from pocket change into serious collector treasures. So what exactly makes a 1976 dime special? And how can you tell if the one sitting in your drawer right now is worth a small fortune? Let's uncover the story behind this quiet little coin that defied its humble 10-cent destiny. To understand the 1976 dime, we need to rewind to a defining moment in American history, the bicentennial. It was a time of parades, fireworks, and pride. 200 years of independence celebrated in every corner of the country. The U.S. Mint joined in by creating special bicentennial quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins, each stamped with the dual dates 1776 to 1976. But one coin quietly stayed the same: the dime. While other denominations received patriotic redesigns, the Roosevelt dime continued unchanged, carrying Franklin D. Roosevelt's familiar portrait on the front and the torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the back. So why is the 1976 dime so interesting if nothing about it looks different? Because even though it wasn't part of the official bicentennial series, some unexpected minting events that year turned a few ordinary dimes into extraordinary rarities. Let's talk about what the Mint was producing that year. Every 1976 dime was made from copper and nickel, 91.67% copper, 8.33% nickel, weighing about 2.27 grams. They were struck in 3 places: Philadelphia with no mint mark, Denver with the D, and San Francisco with the S, mint mark for proof coins meant for collectors. Billions were produced, and on the surface, they all looked identical. But some weren't. One of the most famous oddities connected to 1976 is the 1975 No S Roosevelt dime. It sounds strange, a coin dated 1975, but tied directly to 1976 production. Here's what happened. At the San Francisco Mint, as they prepared proof coins for collectors, a single die somehow missed its S mint mark. Before anyone noticed, a few proof dimes were struck and packaged into sets. Those sets were released in early 1976, right in the middle of bicentennial celebrations. When collectors realized that these flawless proof dimes had no mint mark at all, they became instant legends. A genuine No S proof dime, verified by PGS or NGC, can sell for $400,000 or more. One sold through Heritage Auctions in 2019 for nearly $456,000, one of the highest prices ever paid for a Roosevelt dime. But that's just the beginning. During 1976, the Mint also saw transitional planchet errors, coins struck on the wrong metal blanks. Some dimes were struck on leftover silver planchets from pre-1965 production. Others landed on foreign coin planchets or were struck off-center. Each of those errors turned an ordinary dime into a rarity. So what are these dimes actually worth today? A regular 1976 P or 1976 D dime in circulated condition is still worth about face value, 10 cents. But in pristine, uncirculated grades, say mint state 65 or higher, values jump to $10 or $20. It's not life-changing, but it's a nice premium for a coin that old. Now, if you find an off-center strike, that's where it gets exciting. Slightly off-center pieces might sell for $50 to $150. If the strike is dramatically off, you reach into a jar of loose change, pull out a dime, and the date catches your eye, 1971. For most people, that's just another 10 cents. For the person who knows what to look for, it's a little history card, sometimes ordinary, sometimes surprising. Today, we'll walk the full path. Why most 1971 dimes are common. The handful of ways a 1971 dime can become collectible. The simple test you can do at home, and the smart next steps if you think you found something worth pursuing. Open with the plain fact. 1971 was part of the post-silver era. The Mint had already moved to the copper-nickel clad composition used in modern dimes. So you won't find a 1971 dime that's supposed to be 90% silver. The year produced huge numbers of Roosevelt dimes intended for circulation and for collector sets. That means abundance is the baseline. But abundance does not equal sameness. Within those millions, there are clean survivors, specialty finishes, and the occasional mechanical mistake. And those are the coins that make collectors sit up. Think of most 1971 dimes as factory workhorses. They paid for bus fares and packs of gum. But every so often, the factory produces something different. A coin that escaped wear and looks nearly new, a proof or specially struck example set aside for collectors, or a misstrike that bears the raw evidence of machine error. Those are the things we chase because they're identifiable and because they have real buyer interest. Let's break this down into 4 useful sections. What the coin is, the specific things that increase value, the at-home identification routine you can use, and the smart approach to authentication and selling. What the coin is, the practical baseline. A 1971 Roosevelt dime is a copper-nickel clad dime of the modern composition. It's small, thin, and light. The same basic specs you'll see on dimes for decades. A diameter around 17.9 millimeters and a nominal weight just over 2 grams. It's an everyday coin. Its abundance means date alone doesn't make it rare. Instead, we look at condition, finish, strike quality, and mechanical oddities. What can make a 1971 dime collectible? The categories that actually matter. High-grade, mint state survivors. Out of millions, a tiny fraction of coins emerge from circulation nearly untouched. Properly preserved, A 1971 dime with original luster and very sharp detail can be scarce relative to the bulk of worn pieces. These are the ones that can justify grading and attract collectors who specialize in high-grade modern coins. Proofs and special mint set pieces. Collector sets produce coins with different finishes, mirror-like fields, cameo contrast, or a satin appearance. A gem proof or an attractive special mint set example could be more desirable than an ordinary business strike. These pieces were intended for collectors and sometimes survive in superb condition because they were handled carefully from start. Strike quality and full bands. Even among business strikes, there are differences. Collectors of Roosevelt dimes look for strong, fully struck detail across the reverse, especially the horizontal bands on the torch. A 1971 dime with exceptionally crisp bands and full peripheral detail might command a premium in high grade because strong strike quality is less common in the mass production run. Dramatic errors and off-metal events. Mechanical mistakes make for the most visually exciting finds. Offsetter strikes, clip planchets, double strikes, and similar dramatic errors catch the eye. Most small defects have modest value. Most people don't think twice about a dime. It's small, common, and easy to overlook. But the 1974 US dime, a coin you might still find sitting in an old coffee can or tucked away in a drawer, carries stories and surprises that most collectors never see coming. While the majority of these coins are worth exactly 10 cents, a few special varieties and mint errors have turned ordinary pocket change into genuine numismatic treasures. And if you know what to look for, that tiny coin in your collection could be worth far more than you think. To understand why, we need to go back to what the United States Mint was going through in the early 1970s. America had just gone through the end of the silver coin era. By 1965, silver had been removed from dimes and quarters due to skyrocketing metal prices. The mint replaced the precious metal with a copper-nickel clad composition, a copper core sandwiched between two layers of nickel. By 1974, that system had been in place for nearly a decade. Most people accepted the new clad coins without a thought. But behind the scenes, the mint was dealing with constant adjustments to technology, dyes, and materials, and those transitions often produced small, valuable mistakes. The 1974 Roosevelt dime itself is a simple, classic design. On the front is President Franklin D. Roosevelt, his portrait facing left, designed by John R. Sinek in 1946. The reverse shows a torch in the center, symbolizing liberty, flanked by an olive branch for peace and an oak branch for strength. It's a design that's endured for decades, familiar, clean, and timeless. Now, the 1974 dimes were minted at 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Philadelphia dimes carry no mint. Something extraordinary happened in 1951 that most collectors completely missed. While America was focused on the Korean War and the new threat of atomic anxiety, 3 different U.S. mints were striking nickels that would become some of the most undervalued opportunities in modern numismatics. Fast forward 7 decades, and the collectors who recognized this early are sitting on coins worth 50 times what they paid. Some are worth 500 times face value. And the beautiful part? They're still findable if you know what to look for. The 1951 nickel sits in this fascinating sweet spot of collecting. It's old enough to carry genuine scarcity in top grades, but recent enough that spectacular examples still surface in estate collections and old bankrolls. Let's talk about why this date deserves more attention than it typically gets. Start with the context. Post-war America was booming. The economy was running hot. New suburbs were sprouting up around every major city. Families needed coins for an increasingly cash-driven consumer culture. Laundromats, diners, department stores, movie theaters. Everything required change, and nickels were essential currency. 3 mints responded to this demand. Philadelphia struck nearly 29 million nickels without a mint mark. Denver produced over 20 million marked with a small d. San Francisco contributed just under 7.8 million bearing that coveted S mint mark. Those numbers tell the first part of the value story, but they're far from the complete picture. Let's begin with Philadelphia's contribution. $29 million sounds substantial until you compare it to other post-war years. The 1946 Philadelphia issue had $161 million. The 1952 would have nearly $64 million. In context, 1951 represents a relatively modest mintage year, and that matters when you're hunting for coins that survive in pristine condition. A circulated 1951 Philadelphia nickel in typical grades brings 10 to 40 cents. Nothing exciting there. Most saw heavy use throughout the 1950s and into the 1960s before being set aside. They bought school lunches, paid for bus fare, made phone calls. Standard were shows on Jefferson's cheek and hair, on Montecola's columns and dome. These are honest, circulated coins with stories written in their surfaces. But pull up an uncirculated example and watch what happens to values. MS 64 specimens typically sell for $15 to $30. That's already 60 times face value. These coins show nice luster, acceptable contact marks, decent strike quality. They're attractive pieces that satisfy most type collectors. MS 65 examples jump to $45 to $85. Here you're seeing coins with strong eye appeal, minimal distracting marks, good overall quality. The luster should roll across the surfaces in that characteristic cartwheel pattern. Details should be sharp, particularly on Jefferson's hair and coat collar. At MS 66, the market gets serious. Values climb to $150. Imagine finding a nickel, so new you could still get it in your pocket change, yet worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Sounds impossible, right? But that's exactly what's happening with certain 2020 Jefferson nickels. While most people remember 2020 for lockdowns and uncertainty, coin collectors remember it as the year the mint quietly produced some of the strangest, most collectible nickels in modern history. Coins that slipped through a disrupted system, minted under pressure, distributed unevenly, and now, years later, they're showing up as hidden treasures. In 2020, the U.S. Mint faced something it hadn't seen in decades: a complete disruption in coin circulation. Banks closed, businesses stopped accepting cash, and suddenly the nation was short on coins. The mint kept producing, but many of those coins never made it into everyday use. They sat in vaults or went straight into rolls that were never opened. And that's exactly why 2020 nickels are already standing out as modern rarities. Production numbers dropped sharply that year. Philadelphia made around 664 million nickels, and Denver produced about 850 million. That might sound like a lot, but compared to most years when each mint strikes over $1 billion, it's relatively low. On top of that, countless 2020 nickels never circulated at all. They were stored, hoarded, or kept in mint rolls by collectors who saw what was happening. Those sealed rolls are already trading for far more than face value. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Some of those coins, especially from uncirculated mint sets, show tiny variations. Faint doubling on Jefferson's eye, the word liberty, or the motto, "In God We Trust." Little differences, almost invisible to the naked eye, that can make a coin worth hundreds. One graded example, with clear doubling, sold for nearly $200, and others have climbed even higher when certified in pristine mint state. But the real excitement from 2020 came from something collectors never expected: the return of the W Mint mark. For the first time in decades, the West Point Mint struck special Jefferson nickels, but they weren't meant for circulation. They were packaged with mint and proof sets as bonus coins, carrying that small but powerful W under the date. Only about 1.5 million of them exist across all varieties, and that instantly made them some of the most desirable modern nickels ever made. Collectors love them not just for the rarity, but because the W Mint mark connects modern collectors to America's most prestigious mint. A 2020 W nickel graded in perfect PR 70 deep cameo has already sold for nearly $700. The uncirculated versions, also bearing that same W, are closing in on similar prices as collectors rush to complete their sets. Then there are the error coins, the wild cards that turn ordinary nickels into auction showstoppers. Because 2020 was such a chaotic production year, the mint's quality control wasn't always perfect. Off-center strikes, missing letters, clipped planchets, and even grease-filled dies all made it out into circulation. One dramatic off-center strike on a 2020 D-nickel brought in more than. In 1941, the U.S. Mint made a decision that would create one of today's most sought-after coins. While World War II was reshaping America's industrial landscape, something remarkable was happening in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. They were striking nickels that today could be worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars. And the most fascinating part? You might have one sitting in an old coin jar right now. The 1941 nickel. At first glance, it looks like any other Jefferson nickel you'd find in your pocket change. Thomas Jefferson's profile on the obverse, Monticello on the reverse. Standard stuff, right? But here's where it gets interesting. 3 different mints produced these coins that year, and each one tells a different story about rarity, value, and what collectors are willing to pay. Let's start with what makes 1941 special in the first place. This was the last full year of normal nickel production before the war changed everything. By 1942, the government needed nickel for military equipment, armor plating, communication equipment, essential war materials. So they changed the composition of the 5-cent piece itself, adding silver and manganese. But in 1941, we still had the classic composition, 75% copper and 25% nickel. Pure Americana before the world changed forever. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 203 million 1941 nickels with no mint mark. That's a massive number. These circulated widely, passed through countless hands, got tossed in jars and piggy banks. Most survivors today show significant wear. We're talking about coins that bought candy bars, paid for newspapers, made phone calls. They live hard lives. In average circulated condition, what we call good to very fine in numismatic terms. A Philadelphia 1941 nickel might fetch anywhere from 50 cents to $3. Not exactly retirement money, but more than face value. Where things get exciting is when we talk about uncirculated examples. A 1941 P nickel in mint state 65. That's a coin with original luster, minimal contact marks, sharp details, can bring $30 to $50. Nice, but not spectacular. However, climb up to MS 67, where you're looking at exceptional eye appeal, virtually flawless surfaces, and full strike detail, and suddenly you're in the $200 to $400 range. But the real treasure? An MS 68 specimen. These are museum-quality pieces that somehow survived 8 decades without a single significant blemish. Professional coin grading service and numismatic guarantee company have certified only a handful at this elite level. When one comes to auction, serious collectors take notice. We're talking values between $1,500 and $3,000 for a nickel. Now let's talk about the 1941 D struck in Denver. The Denver Mint produced just over 53 million nickels in 1941, about a quarter of Philadelphia's output. That D mint mark on the reverse, to the right of Monticello, immediately makes this coin more interesting to collectors. Smaller mintage means greater scarcity, especially in higher grades. Ever wonder what makes a quarter worth more than a car payment? It's all about survival rates. Sure, millions were minted, but how many survived in pristine condition? Most 1941 D nickels went straight into circulation, just like their Philadelphia cousins. They bought war bonds, paid for gas when it was 15 cents a gallon, lived in the pockets of Americans watching newsreels about Pearl Harbor. In circulated grades, a 1941 D nickel runs about $1 to $4, depending on condition. Not bad for a 5